Hey guys, what's going on? Can everybody hear me? Is there any music? I don't think there's any music here, right? Welcome Zatumbo, Alex, Throw Up the X, Max White, Two Boss, Ross, Kalo Sun, Frank, Li Schooner, King Happy Joe 420. No music. Good, we're here. Elijah Brooks. You guys get in here. Always get in here before I'm prepared. So, wanted to do a little bit of a stream here. I know everybody looked at the trailer. The reception of the trailer was really, really good. Better than I probably anticipated it being. So, pretty excited about that. What's up, Steven Johnson? Hello, Lisa. What's up, TubeFire? Yeah, I figured rather than do a video tonight, I would just do a live stream and show you guys some of this gameplay. I'm surprised a lot of people haven't seen this game or played this game. So. Oh, Lamar Miller went down. Did it look bad, the other chip? Not a big fan of preseason football just for that reason. Hello, Frank. Hello, Mike Tackett. Yeah, I was concerned with some things in the trailer. You know, it's definitely some freezing players, some safety play, some line interactions that concern me. But, you know, I do know they wanted to gear it toward the offense. So I guess we're going to have to see ultimately how things go. I guess part of the surprise I had to some of that is the foundation for decent gameplay was there, so I don't think that they changed that. Hello, the music promoter. Throw up the X88. You have to change your username after Michael Irvin did what he did to you, don't you? I don't feel like you're able to continue to do it. Anyway, I'm going to be back in All right, guys. Yes, Mike. Dave did patches. He did 3. They patched in the logo editor was patched in. So of course, I'm gonna try to leave the chat up here and go through some plays. I believe the defense picks at random. So what's going on, Niger? One of the things you have to get used to with this game is to learn to use the X button for speed. I'm not being biased toward this game at all. This game is on its 2nd year. So, 2nd year on consoles. I wish there was replays in here, but we'll do a couple run plays. We'll take a look at how the running works. Really, the blocking downfield is a big thing for me, too. This game usually does. Yeah, do you see what he did there? Neger. That's a cute username, but, you know, I was just seeing what I was saying, man. Some people are like that. I'm surprised that didn't get banned by YouTube. You figure they would come out and be like, yeah, that username's not allowed. Those are words that shouldn't be put together. It is X for speed. This is this right here we're looking at is on console, guys. This is on my PS4 for those that are wondering. I'm sure somebody will edit the part of me speaking about him and put it in no context. One thing that this game does have is decent tripping. Well, at least you guys were here live. You know what happened. This game does have decent mechanics at times, but almost like Madden, it's so it can be inconsistent. Are there going to be option plays? Ralph, I don't believe so, but I'm not totally sure. I would be surprised if there were. There's blocking downfield. See number 67, big boy getting down there? Hello again, Lisa. So one of the things that concerned me in the trailer was, from a passing perspective, players tend to stop and go to the outside and turn around and try to catch. Out to sea, you cannot remap buttons in this game. And I'll tell you right now, I was a big proponent in trying to get buttons remapped, and I was very unsuccessful in that. And I'll tell you why. From a actual... Yeah, I'm getting behind here with you guys. The screen moves like that with the player, DB Supernova. The game needs more time. Every game needs to start somewhere. Why is the slot like 5 yards off the ball? All right, let me speak to the mapping real quick. When I talked to Dave about mapping, I'm not familiar with face buttons on a controller and how that works. So he basically said, listen, your key buttons, your most important buttons need to be the ones that your thumb basically sits on. So it makes sense that your speed button would be traditionally the X button, or I don't know what it would be on the Xbox, but traditionally the button that our thumbs sit on. So that's why the speed is there as opposed to a bumper or trigger. Also, if you're going to map it to a trigger or bumper, then it would be best served if there was, and I did a video on this before, use of the gradation where, like a racing game where, you're not 100% full throttle, you're not 100% brake, you have, that axis to go on. So I've always thought, why does EA not do that? 100% speed boost, and then I'm either 100% running or I'm not. It would be so much more skill-based if you had to taper that trigger to say, okay, I'm going to be 30% speed until I hit the hole in the line, and then I'm going to accelerate. Or if I want to just pop the trigger real quick, I can get a little speed burst to try to fake out a defender. But, they've never done that. So that's why it's mapped to a button. And I'll tell you, there's a learning process to it. You'll probably notice I juke sometimes when I get the ball, but once you get used to it, it's okay. This might actually break away if that guy would have blocked. Also, this game, allows you to use a little bit more of the stick as opposed to special moves. So I like games like that. I don't talk about both games a lot, but I actually looked for Axis and Maximum to kind of get away from the spin moves because they're just, I don't want to say they're not necessary. There's more good blocking downfield. I don't want to say that they're not necessary, but I just feel like they're not defensively reacted well to. So sometimes maybe you need to go without something until there's a good counter because you start to get into overpowered things. Sean, I love the concept that I don't talk about these games. I will challenge anyone that finds more Maximum Football content on YouTube than my channel. When this game came out, I probably streamed 7 games. I don't believe they did, Markel, not with speed bursts. And that's what we were talking about if you weren't here from before. We were kind of talking about speed. So more decent blocking, actually blocking that creates a touchdown there. That's one of the things that, I know this game from a visual standpoint may not look the greatest, but at the same time, I think that's why you see a lot of people that are excited about the trailer and can look past some things because in many cases, those people have played this game from last year and they know what it's capable of and they like to see the improvements. Really good pursuit there as well. I don't know if you can edit recruits, Dominic? I'm not sure what you mean, TubeFire. I don't know, just for the record, I don't know when I speak about this game if I'm going to discuss it as a franchise, but more of a dynasty. It's very interesting that both games are going in such polar different directions. You have Axis that's going towards a kind of a professional football with your franchise mode and your team building and your stadium, your contracts, and then you have Maximum here that's going more towards a college, which is obviously recruiting, 4 years, those things. Graphics are going to impact any game. I mean, listen, I think a lot of people don't understand how much EA has to go on graphics. But not every game is going to be a AAA title, and hopefully some of you guys can get a good impression of what this looks like as I play it tonight, and then go and watch the trailer, and I think you'll see a lot of the movement and the animation improvements there from last year to this year. That was kind of something I was going for too. I wouldn't say that's a glitch in Madden 20 where the user goes for the interception, but the defensive back just stands there visitant. I believe that's probably more along the lines of just the game not having animation.
Red, 32.
Yeah, I'll do a few passing plays. Just the run plays to me are a little bit more fun. I think this game speed makes it more fun. So I like games that are slowed down a little bit. There is no recruitment in this current game, Muted. This is the current version of the game. So let me do a few passing plays since you guys asked. There's my favorite passing play in this game is this passing play called All-State.
Right. Blue 10.
I'm not sure about SEI San Diego Studios, Mike. So in this formation, you pretty much get, I don't want to say always open, but you get a relatively open receiver downfield. And hopefully we can get some of the animations where the players go back to turn around to catch it. Let me run this mark play, and we'll try to hit the slot receiver. Weather effects are actually very good in this game, Todd, although the practice mode does not allow you to edit weather. The Canadian rules, this is not Canadian rules. I'm sorry, I misread you there, Cayman. This is the U.S. rules. I try not to use the Canadian rules because, that almost got intercepted. It's a really good read by that safety there, by the way, to cut up underneath. Let's run that play again and see if I can throw it a little sooner. I'm not used, I try to play with the Canadian rules, but just to be honest, I'm so ill-versed in Canadian football that the waggle, I believe what they refer to it as, the player in motion, is just really confusing to me. There you go. Got it that time, and he didn't undercut me. Okay, I mean, he should have picked that off, but he didn't. At least he made a break on the ball. Believe it or not, the first thing you're taught as a defensive back is not to intercept, but rather break up the pass.
Let's go, boys. Let's go.
I accidentally went back to a running play. Okay, I see what you're saying with the waggle stance. Yes, some of the stance is carried over, so it does appear that way, even though that's not how it looks. I think that was part of the problem of having so many different variations of rules that things had to carry over a bit less noticeable. As far as creating teams, Todd, I mean, you can really do, believe it or not, you can't really tell, but I'm playing against the Ravens here. I just don't know that, I guess somebody would have to explain to me the allure of creating an NFL team in a college football experience where there's 130 teams. So if you have one faux NFL team that's going against 29 college teams, I guess to me there's not any immersion there, and that doesn't seem fun. But I understand the logos, but let's say you create 32 logos. What are you going to do with the other 98 teams? That's just one thing that I've heard a lot of people ask. They want to create, maybe they just want to create their team. I don't know, but it seems a little bit strange. Should have a wide open touchdown here. Does anyone understand the allure of I want to put my NFL team into a college game? Is there still not American Pro mode? You'd have to be a little bit more specific with me, Cayman. I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go, boys. Let's go. 120.
I would agree, Cosmo Kramer. 19 does look a lot better than this, and that's part of the reason I wanted to show it tonight for the people that don't understand why why people were so excited about what they saw in the trailer, is because there is a dramatic change from well, there was rather a dramatic change from last year.
Red 32. Red.
I've already said, Brian, I'm going to create my own team. That's what we're out here practicing, I suppose. Tripped over my own player there. There was a season mode in 19. They did not remove it. Well, Blake, there was more than that concerned me. Yes, there is a defender in the game that stands still. I'm not going to be overly judgmental of the trailer, and part of that is because some of the issues that I saw from the trailer I don't see in this game, which kind of surprises me. So I guess that remains to be seen. It would surprise me that there are issues that were created as opposed to, I'm trying to think of how to word this. It would surprise me there were gameplay issues that were created in the effort of just putting in new animations. But until we play the game, we don't know. How does the running feel? Is it slushy? Well, slushy is a good descriptive word. I think you guys just need to understand the game runs at a much slower pace. If you look at the timing, especially of the ball in the air, the ball being thrown is completely different. So you have to take into account that timing and that slowness of the game translates over to everything else. I don't know for sure how many seasons in Dynasty mode. I was going to say, I want to say 50, but I wouldn't hold that to be true. I'm not saying that Cayman doesn't know what he's talking about. I just don't know that's accurate. Well, if it reminds you of Madden 10, I love when people say it looks like Madden 10, it looks like NCAA 14, because there's people 2 years ago that said this looked like an Atari game. So we've jumped consoles in that case. 50 does stand out to me, but without knowing for sure, I'm hesitant to say 50. But
Green 23. Green 23.
Miles, the interesting thing about the contract is that it's renegotiated all the time. So if you didn't know, basically what happens is EA goes to the NFL. They're upside down in this contract to begin with. So they go to the NFL and they say, listen, we need to renegotiate this. And they generally work a deal. From what I understand, some of those deals may include things like, we're going to include your actual sponsors in the game. So if you remember back to they had Papa John's and Doritos and all those things included in the game. Snickers was in the game for a long time. I think, in my opinion, they used those as bartering chips within the league to lower the cost of the agreement. So they'll go to the NFL and they'll say, listen, we can't pay X for this agreement right now, but we will pay Y. And even though we're going to decrease your costs of what even though we're going to decrease what we're paying, in return, we're going to put all your sponsorships into the game. You can go back to those vendors and say, hey, we've added value proposition to this deal because Snickers is now going to be shown to, however many gamers, or Papa John's is now going to be shown to however many gamers. And it's ideal for both the league to have all that additional exposure and EA if they were using that to dial back their cost. But, there's no two ways around it. The NFL's popularity has decreased, and with that, I'm sure that the agreement cost that they came to 15 years ago isn't the agreement cost they want to pay now. Why is this game better than Madden? I wouldn't say. I think we have to stop comparing every game to Madden. I understand Madden is the only AAA standard on the market, but I used an analogy yesterday. If I asked someone to build me a car, just one person, I gave them 3 years to build me a car, and I got the car and I compared it to my Cadillac and I said, okay, you didn't do a whole lot better. This isn't that great of a car. But if I found one thing in that car that was better than what I have, then I would probably go to GM and say, hey, how did this guy build me a car in his garage that has anything better than this car that I bought from you? And they may take that and say, okay, we're going to use this as a motivation, or we're going to use this as a reason to innovate. And that's what this ultimately comes down to. So to say that it's better across the board would not be completely accurate. But to also say that because it's not better across the board, it does not do anything better is selling it way short. Both of these games do things better than Madden, do things that Madden should be doing but don't. And I think it's actually important to note that at least it's my understanding right now that this game going forward, and in the past for that matter, has no microtransactions. Greetings from Germany. You would have to explain to me where you see animation-based or scripting in this game. Playing it, it does not feel that way or look that way. In fact, many people speak poorly of this game because the animations are not there, which is why they went to a 3D studio or went to a motion capture studio this year. For those that don't understand what happened, I don't know why Matt Allen randomly blocked me on Twitter last night. I'm not even going to entertain it. It is what it is. I'm so far behind on the gameplay, I don't know when you say that tackle looks scripted. That tackle was totally scripted. I don't know which one you're talking about. I'm not watching live on my phone. I'm just watching the live chat, so I can't see what you guys are responding to. I can't play the game and watch myself play the game, believe it or not. I don't really want to speak a lot about Access. I did a stream before that the quality was poor on because I mistakenly did not turn down the volume when playing, and you couldn't hear anything I was saying. Matt Allen blocked me, not Madden. Surprisingly, though, you would think Madden would be there. Yeah, Anthony's still not in UFC, so I don't know what more they want from that. I don't know what the deal is. If you follow the UFC closely, you know that there's, I would think off the top of my head, at least 5 different fighters that openly petition to be put in the game and aren't. So. Do you think this or Axis would be a better purchase? I've never played either of their games. Well, and I did somewhere, and maybe somebody can find it and link it, I did like a buyer's guide between these two games last year, and I discussed, the kind of, I don't want to say the pros and the cons, but what would you look for in each game, or as a gamer, what you would prefer to have as your purchase if you were looking for this experience, I guess would be the best way to put it. I would say, I'm going to set down the controller to do this. I would say, if you want a college football experience, this is the way to go. It has a dynasty mode. It has college recruiting, 4-year school, 4-year students. So you're constantly building. So that's a vastly different experience than Axis is building, which is a more of a professional football team franchise, where I'm trying to make my team as financially stable as possible while building a team long term, where I'm trading players from other I almost said schools and colleges. I'm trading other players to teams. I'm dealing with the draft. There is no there is recruiting, but it's recruiting on a different scale. You're not recruiting players to your team by luring them in with scouts. You're scouting college players and then drafting them as they become available. So it really would depend on what type of football experience you want, because they're both, honestly, and to a point, thankfully at this point, they're creating totally different experiences. It is not possible to share and import rosters or logos. They looked into that, and the long and short of it is the legalities make it near improbable. Yes, Access has a draft and free agency trading where Maximum Football has collegiate. It's literally two totally different aspects of the sport. There are no games that you're going to see, at least to my understanding, that are going to be independent with roster sharing and logo sharing capabilities. I can say microtransactions not being in games are probably welcomed by all gamers. There is a free college football game and profit off advertisements. I just don't think they would be able to sell enough to sponsors to get off the ground. I can't stand what Henry Cejudo is doing, Josh. This game started with custom playbooks or custom design a play, so I know it's there. It's not in the game currently because the port over to console, it was not able to carry over. Whether it's able to be done or not, I don't know. I'm sure it's something that could be converted. It's just, I can tell you that this game, at least on PC prior, ran so much better than it does on a console just because, my PC is 20 times what my PS4 is. Yeah, I mean, DB, both games have their trailers out. So, to a degree, that's what they want to show their consumers. If you want to wait for gameplay, I totally agree with you. I would say that in any game you're going to purchase, wait to see gameplay, if not someone's opinion on it. The best Madden for me, I think 05 was one of the best. I hate to say 25 because a lot of people will just say, well, I was biased because that was when I went to EA. So I do think 25 seemed to be better. XFL has a long way to go. So I know you guys all want an XFL game, but you probably would be best served taking anything you want to put toward an XFL game right now and put it toward the XFL. Whether you purchase a shirt or a hat or you go to a game, the league has to thrive before a game is even in consideration. Period. We just learned this with the AAF. If the league is not in a good place, they are not going to make a game. So I say that waiting for the XFL store to open to go purchase my Washington gear with my season tickets already deposited. Draft Day Sports is a great football manager. I'm glad that they've been on my channel, and I appreciate him giving me so many copies of the game to give away, but I'm just not a big... Didn't have my phone turned off, and I thought it did. Super unprofessional. I'm just not a big manager guy. It's hard for me to get into football managers. Arena football is still alive. There's only about 8 teams. So it's struggling, but it's here. The franchise guy has been on my channel. So yeah, I know what he does. He actually, what's funny is if you actually look at what he does, he pioneered stretching ratings, and then EA did it and acted like they really changed their game. It's quite comical to me. I don't remember my favorite player that I drafted in franchise mode in the past. I remember trying to get as many Hall of Fame players as I could on a team. Yes, Josh, you can search for our podcast that me and Jimmy do. It's Our MMA Show. OURMMA SHOW. Thank you. The offensive line mechanics, you can only do so much. There's only so much I can say about that and do. What are your top 3 least favorite things about Madden? Honestly, that's a detailed question. I'm going to have to think about that for a minute, Cole.
Right.
There's so many things that disappoint me on different levels. So if you were to say, what do I dislike about Madden the most, I would probably say the way they became a microtransaction machine. And then don't deliver on what they show is a huge problem. Those really, if those two things could go away, I don't even know that the exclusivity agreement would matter all that much. It's very disappointing to see the community continue to be sold a product and then not have that product delivered. And not only that, they've really went a long way to segmenting the community. So they've literally broken their game down to simulation, arcade, and competitive. And we knew in doing that, all it was going to do was segment the community. So you've got the sim guys that you can't make happy. You've got the competitive guys that you have to put on TV. I don't even know who the animation guy or the arcade guys are, right? So who are the arcade Madden players? I've never met one. Are those like the children that play the game? I don't know. But, once they did that, I figured we were probably going down the wrong path because you get away from trying to replicate the sport and you get more toward into trying to make everyone happy. And we all know you're never going to make anyone happy. Joe Montana Football came out. It was like a VR game, and it flopped. Actually, the only content strike I have on my channel is from Damon Groh. Ironic story.
Right. Green 23.
I really don't have time to pay attention to many other sports games. So I hear people when they say, I'd love for you to cover hockey, or I'd love for you to cover basketball. I don't know those sports well enough. I tried to cover NASCAR, but nobody wanted to watch it. So we let that go.
120.
Time to rip packs in Madden Ultimate Team. That's not something you'll ever see me do on my channel. I'm not sure what you're asking, Todd. What is the reason for this? Madden 04 isn't widely talked about. I don't have an answer to that question. I really don't. I don't know why people don't talk about it.
Red 32. Red.
I hope you think this gameplay looks horrible, and then you can go look at the trailer and you can see how much it's improved from last year to this year.
Right. Blue 10. Blue 10. Hut.
Don't know what happened there, but that definitely should have been picked. When is the release day? Todd. Okay, the release day for all these games is going to be dependent on when they pass certification. So, until the game passes certification, they can't really set a release date. I have no idea what that receiver was doing running upfield, or that defender was running up down instead of trying to tackle me. So, think about it like this. They can't put the game in the store, in the marketplace, until the game passes certification. Once it passes certification, I don't know whether they're allowed to set a date and say, put our game out on April 1st, or they're given a date where your game goes in the marketplace on April 1st. So how that works, I don't exactly know, but I do know once you have the certification passed, it's coming out, period. So you just have to wait.
Right.
That's actually what held Axis up for so long. If you guys remember back, Axis didn't really get off the ground on PS4 for quite some time because it couldn't pass certification. So by the time it did, it was ready to go, but it took half a year. which, you know, thankfully, in a way, they learned from that, and that's not going to happen again this year, I hope. If not, you know, that's disappointing. Why did the NFL sell the rights to EA? Well, they didn't. They put the rights up for auction, and the highest bidder won, and EA had the most money. From what I remember, the NFL was upset that EA had, or excuse me, that 2K had put a game at a lesser price point, and to a consumer, I could imagine it does look bad. At the time, I didn't fully understand that, but I agree that it does look bad. If you were in a video game store and there's two baseball games and one of them is $60 and the other one is $20, I would want to know why one is $40 less. So, you know, the NFL decided that that wasn't something that they wanted to have reflect their product. But the interesting thing is they've made a lot of changes since then. You know, they used to only allow Reebok and Reebok gear to be worn. They've since expanded that. You can wear pretty much every single, you know, as long as it's approved, you can use any apparel, practically, any type of cleat or glove. You can have custom cleats or gloves. It's odd to me that that hasn't trickled down into video games where they let, you know, anyone back in the marketplace, but they haven't decided to do that. Cole continues to just troll away. The backbreaker physics engine, guys, it's so much easier to say put an engine in there rather than actually do it. It's not as simple as just plug and play. I don't even know that it would be possible. Yes, Madden is using Frostbite, and the more I learn about Frostbite, the more I feel that it's probably the reason Madden is struggling so much. EA has a really good concept where, if I can just get to the second level here, EA has a really good concept where if all of us in this room were working on games, and it didn't matter what game it was, but behind all those games was the same engine, and I came to you and I said, hey, suppressed ace, I found a way to make this happen in our game. And you said, okay, I want that to happen in my game too. I would just show you how to do it. And then it would carry over to your product. And it would be great. But the problem is, just as Hello Paradise said, try to cross-pollinate a first-person shooter with a sports game. It doesn't exactly work. So it probably, on paper, it seems like a fantastic idea. But in execution, it's horrible. It's just a bad idea. If we all played the same games the same way with the same concepts, it'd absolutely work. But from the same point, I can only imagine it saves them countless millions and millions of dollars to have everything kind of powered by one engine. I'm surprised how much Rex Dixon has signed off on the independent games. I really am. I'm glad, but you know what? To a point, I take that back. Because at the same time, with Rex, he welcomed Axis when they first came to console and first came to market. So at the same time, I'm not surprised he's supporting them now, because back then, I am sure somebody at EA came to him and said, hey, listen, stop talking about these independent games. Me and Aaron Hawani don't have a good relationship. We've had a few interactions where we're not really buddies. Well, thank you, Tone, for coming out. Go watch University in Florida. I won't be on here much longer, so don't feel like you're missing anything. This is Maximum Football, the predecessor to Doug Flutie's game. But so many people are finding it because of that. I don't know why EA makes every sports game at MLB. Isn't it because somebody has the license? I'm not sure. I don't know who doesn't love Doug Flutie. Hello, Burton31Cat. It's always nice to have a NASCAR fan come in. Your username must confuse a whole lot of people at this point. Again, Cole, you can, say all the stuff you want about this game, and I don't know what you're watching. I'm not watching myself play the game while I play the game. I'm only looking at the live chat. I'm going to do a video on IMV. I'm try to tread carefully on this topic. I have some information from IMV that they provided me, and I don't exactly know how I want to proceed with it. So I initially thought, yeah, they probably do think your name is Burton and have 31 cats. I initially thought that I would do a video right away with it. And the more I thought about it, give it to me, but they did. So I feel compelled to discuss it, but at the same time, I want to be as unopinionated as possible. It's a very difficult situation that they're in. So I don't know. I understand how the community can feel like they're wrong. I really do. However, they have a side of it too that we have to understand as well. Yeah, I saw Flumlo's video, and I actually commented on his video that I was going to do. Mine. And that's what shocked me, is that the video that he did doesn't include the information that I have, which is absolutely astonishing because he is an investor with them. It does have to do with the Tony Bruno person, yes. This game you can buy in the PlayStation or Xbox Marketplace right now level. Keep in mind, its predecessor is coming out in less than 30 days, I would assume. I'm trying to get caught up with the chat. Yes, Bernie, there's a lot of things that have to be touched up in this game. I would say, and I guess maybe I'll close this out by saying this. One of the interesting things going to next year with this game is that a majority of people in the community were upset about the animations and wanted the player movement in motion to look better. The problem is, and we all know by playing Madden, that if you get a game that is too animation dependent, you lose user control. So we essentially went to both independent games and said, we're not satisfied with how your game looks. We want more animations. And at the same time said, we're tired of playing Madden because it's pure animations. So we basically told those games to do what we tell Madden not to do. And we did it entirely inadvertently. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Because while I understand visually the game is not as appealing when you don't have the animations or the quality of animations, however, I really don't like the gameplay when it comes down to tons of animations. I read about a scoreboard bug for Maximum Football, but I already know it's also already been taken care of. So if that's their biggest problem is a scoreboard bug, we're in super good. We're in much better shape than I thought. Replicating player faces in Madden comes down to the players. They literally, if you didn't know this, they have players that they give copies of the game to sit down and do the facial. They basically just have a camera rig, and they shoot like maybe 80 pictures of their face to put into the game, and some players just aren't interested. You can honestly think about it this way. If you have a player in the NFL that's 30, 40 years old. He probably doesn't care about video games. Maybe his kids do, but he probably doesn't. So him being in the game is probably not that big of a deal. But if you have somebody in the league that's 24, 25, they grew up with video games. They grew up with Madden. So for them to be in the game is like like a milestone achievement to them. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they're in the game. And if that means if they have to stand in line for 30 minutes to get your facial, photos done by EA and get a couple of copies in the process, then that's what they're going to do. But I just don't think it has the same meaning to every single NFL player. And that's why you see some of them, Bill Belichick, for example, just don't care. It's not worth it. What are you going to do? Give them 2 games they're not going to use? That they get taxed on full price? Yeah, come on now. That's... And I don't know that specifically what happened with Greg Olsen because I read his story. Hello, Wyatt. So I think it just... honestly, what Greg Olsen said was almost as if Madden was being spiteful by not having him in the game. I personally really doubt that to be true. I talked about earlier, you cannot map anything.
Let's go, boys. Let's go.
Mapping in games creates absolute chaos. Gonna give it about another 8 minutes here, guys. I didn't want to go all that long. Well, hello, Chris.
Right.
The Colts are my favorite team. Once you get used to the controls in Maximum, I think they're okay. It's just, like we talked about earlier, the learning curve is difficult.
Right. White. White. Hut.
That receiver probably should have blocked. I mentioned earlier, Kai, if I had to change one thing on Madden, it would probably be the microtransactions. I feel like they're... and the necessity of trying to please every facet of gamers. Are you talking about in Madden, Mike? Because you can wiggle. I watched some competitive Madden player, basically just cut left and right in pursuit and got to a point where he couldn't get tackled. And I said to myself, I've never done that, but that's insane. This cannot compete with Madden, Bray. No, it's not made to compete with Madden. Neither of these games are going to be Madden competitors. They are going to be Madden motivators. They're going to motivate EA to see that the community has other desires from their game, and hopefully we're going to understand that things can be put into the game. So sooner or later, there's going to be enough of an uprising where football gamers in general look at a game that they say is trash and want to know why it has a logo editor, want to know why it has a complete franchise mode, want to know why it has a complete dynasty mode, and go back to EA and say, how is 3 or 4 people doing this and you can't do this with what you're doing? And EA is going to say, well, we can't do that and stand on the sidelines of preseason games in ratings adjusters t-shirts. Because that's exactly what they're doing right now. I don't know that EA will change their commentators, Kyle. There's a massive time investment in those commentators. And if you've noticed, EA has tried to get away from even going back to, and I don't know the name of the guy that was there before, the local guy from Florida they got. I'm trying to think of what his name was. He used to do the halftime show before Jonathan Coachman. They don't want to pay those top dollar people to come in away from, their actual commentating job when they can pay the weather guy from Channel 4 to come in and lay all the track. And who cares? Does it really... It wasn't Fran Charles. I don't know. I can't remember. Ridley. Larry Ridley. Larry Ridley was the guy's name. So Larry Ridley was a TV anchor in Orlando, like their sports guy. So he came down and was like doing their audio tracks. Well, he has all day. He's not a professional NFL commentator. So he can sit there and spend all afternoon recording at EA, and it's not a big deal. They probably pay him... a quarter, half of what they do. That's a horrible analogy, Mike. If you open up a good sandwich shop across from a Subway restaurant, you mean to tell me that people are just going to blindly go into that Subway and eat their food? No, not at all. And eventually Subway might look and say, hey, why is this store's sales declining? And then they'll realize that, there's an independent sub shop across the street. And then they realize that they probably need to get out of town because they're losing money hand over fist. So I don't know where that analogy comes from. All it really takes is the right person to question this. All it takes is one NFL executive to go to EA and say, why are these two games... Mike, if you think big companies don't worry about little ones, you've never, ever... you've never been in a board meeting, I can tell you that right now. That is the Enron philosophy of, we are too big to fail. We're not going to worry about the little companies because they're the little companies. That's just a ridiculous premise. Just about as ridiculous as some of your comments defending this game, but I guess now I see where some of that logic comes from. I assure you, no one's going to boycott Madden. No one's asking. No one thinks that's going to happen. I streamed Access last week, Doughboy, but the problem was I didn't turn the volume down on the game, and you couldn't hear anything I was saying because I'm an idiot, and I don't stream all that often. So if a big company is doing well, they don't worry about the little ones. That is a ridiculous premise. So you mean to tell me that GM and Toyota and Honda aren't worried about, any other car company? They're not worried about Tesla because why should they? That's day one of business, Mike. Go to Phoenix University. Actually, just Google Phoenix University. I'm not a big college or a big online college guy, but just Google any online college and just tell them you want to take a beginner's business course, and then try to push that logic on someone that actually understands. No, he's not trolling me. That's the scary thing. He actually believes that. He actually believes that a big company doesn't worry about a little company and that EA doesn't think about or know that these two games exist, which couldn't be further from the truth because they'll follow them. So if somehow Clint did not know that these games existed, he was made aware today when Rex retweeted it and said that he was proud of what they'd done. They only care if it's a real threat. They don't. Okay. That's why there's no Mike Parks Gaming Company. EA could buy out whatever they wanted, Kyle, but you have to have somebody willing to sell in order to be bought out. And I don't think either one of these, in Maximum Football's case, David hasn't made a dime off this game. It's all went right back into the product. So I doubt he's willing to sell what he's worked to create and never made a dime off yet. If anything, if somebody wanted to complain, you could technically complain that the Gridiron, I'm not sure what the game was called, but that one Gridiron game closed down because Axis hired the guy. So, that was disappointing to me. I was looking forward to that flag football game.
Blue 10. Blue 10.
I'm going to defer any other questions, Mike. I'm scared of your business logic based on a 3-second conversation we just had.
Right.
All right, well, I said 8:30. It's 8:31. Do yourself a favor. After watching me play this game for an hour, go watch the maximum trailer. After I just get clothesline, that seems like a good place to stop it. Go watch the trailer, and hopefully you'll see a bunch of the differences in the game. As always, guys, you know I appreciate you. I did this instead of a video tonight, but I definitely have some videos coming up for you guys tomorrow. Appreciate all the support. We should be past 32,000 subscribers. So, Josh, I would say Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman signed a pair of gloves for me last night, so going to be quite happy with that. Guys, go enjoy your preseason football game or your IndyCar race or your Bellator MMA, whatever you plan on watching tonight. Make it a good one, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And you know I will be back in the week with more commentary. Oh, one more thing. Before I leave, AGK927 is making a video about me, but real quick, there's a guy that made a video about him that's absolutely hilarious. I don't know how true it is, but he definitely gets exposed. So maybe you guys have a couple extra more minutes for YouTube. You can go search that video. And I will say it's quite strange to see somebody that knows another person, that physically knows another person, make a video like that. So I'm sure AGK doesn't want you to go watch that, but you can go look at it yourself. When's the next stream? If I had to guess, Tuesday. So, but anyway, like I said, you guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and appreciate you all coming out.